Hi, I'm Sandy Rustin. I'm the playwright of The Suffragette's Murder, which is currently having its world premiere at the Denver Center for Performing Arts. Today, I'm in their library looking up plays, and they gave me this handy bag to see what plays I might want to take home with me today and check out from the library. All the opinions I'm going to share today are my own, so don't blame the Denver Center if you don't like my opinion. Okay, let's see what we can find. Let's see what we're going to fill my bag up with. I'm going to go all the way back here. Oh, here's Tony Kushner. One time in New York City, I rode an elevator with Tony Kushner. It was just me and him. It was in the elevator at 2nd Stage on 43rd Street, and we rode the whole elevator, and my heart was pounding. I was like, oh my God, it's Tony Kushner. And right as we got out, he plucked a hair off of my coat and was like, you don't need that. And I was like, horrified, that Tony Kushner had to clean me up, but also kind of delighted that I had a singular interaction with Tony Kushner. I'm gonna take Millennium Approaches and Perestroika. They're both coming with me. Shall we move on? Who else is here? My first theater obsession was Annie. I was obsessed with Annie. My grandmother took me to see the national tour of Annie that came, I believe, to the Erie Crown Theater in Chicago when I was 8. I didn't know that something like that could exist in the world. So I was obsessed with Annie. In the 6th grade, I got to play Annie at school. Shout out to Kimmy Weinberg. I think she was just a parent in the district with a theater background, but she was magical to me. She knew everything about theater. She taught me so much. She directed all my middle school shows, and I adored her, and she really changed my life. So hooray for the theater teachers. That's what I have to say. Ibsen. I'm going to skip Ibsen. I wanted to skip Ibsen in college, and I want to skip Ibsen now, because right here in front of Ibsen is the Heidi Chronicles. My first Broadway play I ever saw was Sisters Rosenzweig, which is here. Here it is, the Sisters Rosenzweig. First of all, I didn't know that there were Jewish female playwrights. I just didn't know that that was a thing. And then I found one, and she was on Broadway, and I thought, I could do that too then. That means I could do it too. The female characters that this woman portrayed on stage, I hadn't seen that before. Really portray a real family of people who were complicated but loved each other at all, to the ends of the earth, even though they were flawed. And I just found it incredibly inspiring. So I'm taking Wendy Wasserstein with me. The Suffragette's Murder was a commissioned piece by Florida Studio Theater, where I'm part of their playwriting collective. They gave us a commission and said, you can write whatever you want on the subject of women's suffrage, because it was celebrating the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. And I said, is it okay if I write something funny? And they said, of course. And so I went to the library. I was interested in the years in the 1800s when it was on the cusp of the women's movement. I found this book about boarding houses at that time, and the vegetarian boarding house chapter really inspired me. It's a book called The Physiology of Boarding Houses by Thomas Gunn Butler, if you're interested. Oh, look here, is Raisin in the Sun. This is Lorraine Hansberry. This is a Black female playwright, another woman whose shoulders I stand on now. Raisin in the Sun I saw on Broadway with my now husband. I don't know if we were married when we saw it. I can't remember. Don't tell him. I loved this play. She was really able to demonstrate one family, these specific people, how these issues affected these specific people, but you yourself and the audience were able to take it for yourself and to have a universal reaction to it. Broadway Bound. Okay, Broadway Bound, when I was a sophomore in high school at shout out to New Trier High School in Chicago, I played the Aunt Blanche, in Broadway Bound, and our production of this went all the way to the state competition at the University of Illinois, and we won. And then when I was an actor in New York City, I had an opportunity to actually be in one of his plays. I was the Roundabout Theater Company did a production of Neil Simon's Hotel Suite, and I was the understudy for all the young women in it, and Neil Simon would be there during rehearsal with his yellow notepad, sitting in the audience, and I was gobsmacked by him. I just thought it was amazing. His specific brand of comedy that was both gentle and realistic. Okay, this goes in the bag. I'm taking Neil Simon with me. Oh, so many. Oh, Moliere. I once had to do a mask workshop a Moliere mask workshop where and I don't remember anything about it because I hated those masks so much I couldn't breathe. I think that comedy has the power of healing, and oftentimes comedy can feel sort of secondary to the important dramas. And I have found in my own life, and certainly in my career, that there is a deep value and a need for comedy in our society. When you're laughing, you are automatically relaxed. You can't really be on the defensive when you're laughing. And when you are relaxed, when you're not on the defensive, there is more space in your heart and brain to absorb truths. I'll take the understudy because I spent the first portion of my career as an understudy, and I love understudies. It's the hardest job in showbiz. It's coming with me. I love Lauren Gunderson. Do you know her? You should read all her plays. Lauren Gunderson is amazing. This play, I and You, is so wonderful. I was the co-artistic director of a theater company called Midtown Direct Rep in New Jersey. I don't even know, maybe 15 years ago, I had the pleasure of working with Lauren. And I think at the time she was collaborating with her friend and mine, Kate Kerrigan, on a new play. And that was when I was first introduced to her. And since then, she is one of the most produced and published playwrights in our country, deservedly so, and she's wonderful. And I love this play, I and You. I'm taking it with me. This is Beth Henley, Crimes of the Heart. Okay, I was in Crimes of the Heart in Colorado at Theater Aspen, as a matter of fact. My dear friend Michael Unger, a wonderful director, he now runs the Skylight Theater in Milwaukee, if anybody is in Milwaukee. He directed me. I played Babe in Crimes of the Heart at Theater Aspen. I remember this scene. She says, I told her, Mama got national coverage, national. And if Zachary wasn't a senator from Copiah County, I probably wouldn't even be getting statewide. That's my babe. Man, Beth Henley is another female playwright who writes fantastic women characters. Complicated, flawed, real women. I loved playing Babe. She was nuts. She was nuts. She kills a guy. But casually makes lemonade. Okay. Night Mother by Marcia Norman. This is a great play. My monologue, when I first moved to New York City, and you have to have like a contemporary monologue. Mine was from this play. There's so many female playwrights to come before me, and I feel so grateful to be amongst them, to have learned from them, to have performed in their work, to have read their material, and to now be creating my own work is really incredible, and I do not take it for granted. I am mindful of the incredible women writers who came before me all the time. Do you think it's weird that all these plays are by women? Oh, Neil Simon, he's a man, but he writes great women. He does, so I'll take it. I found Noel Coward. My play, The Cottage, was inspired almost entirely by Noel Coward's play, Hay Fever. Different in a million and one ways, but stylistically, tonally, that was what inspired me to write The Cottage. With The Cottage, I was looking to try to create a Noel Coward play from a female point of view, as opposed to the women in Noel Coward's plays are often there in service of the male characters, because that was when he was writing plays. That's how all the plays were. His high style, I'm just drawn to it. I love it. I will always take Noel Coward with me. He goes in the bag. I grew up listening to comedy albums, really. Musical theater albums from my mom and comedy albums from my dad. And that was my exposure to comedy. By the time I was 7, I had Abbott and Costello's Who's on First routine memorized, and my dad and I would perform it at dinner, my Girl Scout troop meeting. So the value of comedy was high in my household. And I coupled that then with my love for theater, which I think was introduced from my mom, who, we had Rodgers and Hammerstein playing in our house almost all the time. So yeah, I just found a happy place for both of those passions to coexist.